my veins. Blue and one, I red, white, and blue in my brain. I'm Bulldog born. Bulldog, that's my breed. I was born to follow where the Bulldogs lead.
Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Inside The Kennel. That's right, Bulldog fans. It's the podcast that you've been waiting for. So if you're a doggy supporter, get excited because this show is going to be taking you inside the locker room like never before. We're going to be interviewing lots of famous figures from the club and take you right inside the inner sanctum. And to go on this journey with me, each episode, I'd like to welcome you all to my esteemed co-host of Inside The Kennel. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks very much, Mattie. How you going, mate? Listen, are we going to be so inside the kennel that we're going to smell the deep heat? Is that what we're talking?
I love those days. And you know what? If we get a little bit of a whiff, I won't be complaining.
Oh, can you remember that deep heat just flowing through? It was like when you went to a curry place and you just smelt the curry from the kitchen coming through. It's football. It's football season. A bit like, I guess, when you have that green grass and it's just one of those things. That's what we want. That's what we want people to feel inside the kennel. Is that right?
Absolutely. And look, we promise you each week we're going to be interviewing a member of Bulldog royalty. And today, after we have a little bit of a chat, there's no bigger royalty than the King of Footscray. Doug Hawkins is going to be on episode 1. Get excited. And he's one of my personal heroes growing up, Paul. Pretty much most Western suburbs people had Dougie's poster hanging on their wall. I was no exception. And so if I'm a little bit nervous and a little bit jittery today with some of my questioning, you'll excuse me.
Listen, mate, we are setting ourselves up here. We've really brought in the big guns right from the very first episode. It's only downhill from here, I think.
It's going to crash and burn. Yeah.
Now, listen, mate, we want to talk about trade talk.
Yes.
Listen, mate, there's a lot happening, isn't there?
Look, there is indeed. It was a massive week. And there were a lot of Bulldog supporters, I guess, who had their heart in their mouths halfway through the week thinking some of the deals weren't going to get done.
And look, mate, I'll grab something from the great Bulldogs forum, Facebook forum, and I'm not mentioning names. I'm just going to make this statement for you, and I want your response to it. Lachie Hunter for a future third-round pick. For someone that was pretty important part of our squad, we'll let him go for absolutely nothing. Absolutely appalling. I could understand Shaki going for a 4th-round pick because he was never really consistent in our squad. But, geez, what an absolute giveaway for Lachie. Considering he's had a couple of years with us and had a great deal, an absolute giveaway, says this fellow. What are your thoughts on the Hunter deal, mate? It does seem a bit we've given him away, not for much in return.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was a number of players, weren't there? Have a look at them. They're flashing up on your screen right now. Lachie Hunter was huge. He's a Bulldog best and fairest winner. He's a premiership player, and his dad famously captained us as well. So it was a surprise, but maybe that's telling that he had some difficulties last year, and a fresh start is good for anyone. And I just hope that Bulldog supporters, rather than demonise Lachie and or the club, just get behind him. He's achieved an incredible amount, and I hope we all can wish him luck.
Look, I saw him down at Werribee near the end of the season there, where they played. I know who they were playing. It was just a game before the Geelong game that night. And look, he put his heart in the VFL there. He was great. He was a great role model. He had a great sense of humour. He was a little playful with the opposition in a really good sportsman way. I think I was standing behind his family actually at the game, and I just liked his whole. Considering he'd been kept out of the side for a while, I thought his positivity was fantastic. I thought the way he was committed to the footy was fantastic. So I agree. Wish him all the very best. I know he's upset a few fans. A few fans are upset. It's a massive loss. It is, but you can only wish him all the best.
Wish him all the best, and it's the same with Dunkley. They're two really big names. Zane Porty, another premiership player as well, and Josh Shaki, a former number 2 draft pick. So they're a fairly a big set of outs. Can we cover it? Those last 2 names on the list there, typically they're midfielders, and our midfield bats deep. So, I think we've got some of the weaponry to cover that. But have the players that we've brought in, as you can see on the screen there, will they be able to have an impact? We've got Liam Jones coming from the QAFL. We've got Rory Lobb. Will he be a bit of a saviour for us? And obviously we've got two really important picks for some young people this year and also next year's draft.
Look, again, just taking, I like the forum in a sense because it's like going into a pub and just sort of, write down your questions here. That's what I feel the forum is. And you do get a really contrasting point of view, but, and you get some optimism, tremendous optimism. Someone said, don't worry about Dunks. We've got him covered. I thought, there's no way we're going to cover him. He was playing so well this year. And Mattie, I know you are an optimistic person, but in that game against Dockers, that first half, he was the main reason why we were in the game so well. Him and Bonce, but his physical football was phenomenal. He was playing so well. His heart and soul was in it. We are not going to replace him that easily. He is a great loss. That's okay. Let's accept that. But it's going to be very difficult to replace him in 1 year. But he's certainly going to provide, along with Hunter, opportunities for other players in the team that perhaps we could discuss later around who's going to roll through those positions. But we are not going to replace him that easily.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. He's a huge loss, but I've got faith that that players like Bailey Smith, these are our up and coming stars, and it just opens up an opportunity for him to now, spend some real time in the engine room, and I can't wait to see what he brings. So look out, we've got two really tall, exciting players coming into the club. Hopefully two fantastic youngsters as well, and hopefully we get some signings this week, including one of my personal favourites, Mitch Wallace, who's just been sitting waiting. Will my contract be renewed? I would imagine now, especially with Lockie Hunter going, that's a certainty. And look out for him. I think he's going to be a dark horse of what he brings. If he remains injury free.
We don't want to talk about delistings, and I do want to talk about Lobb in a moment as well, please, Mattie. But we don't want to talk about delistings. But in your view, and you made a really good point when we were chatting earlier the week around why we're holding off the delistings, and you made an excellent point about Shacky, and it came to fruition. Clearly, they didn't want to delist him. They knew he had value. He's gone to Melbourne again. Wish him all the best. He was playing too well in the VFL, I think, to be thrown out to the Eastern Leagues or to the country footy. Who do you feel is going to unfortunately be delisted from the Bulldogs?
Yeah, look, I think the writing's on the wall there with Lobby coming in. That brings that support for Tim English, and with Jordan Sweet, our raw up and coming ruckman. Those three, I think, will serve us well. So, it would be with regret that Steph Martin will probably, is probably likely to announce his retirement. And he's been, a terrific servant to Brisbane Lions and in the last couple of years to the Doggies as well. And he'll be sadly missed. But hopefully he can continue to mentor those three boys that are still there. And But I would imagine, he'll probably be one of those that will be a casualty of the recruitment of Lobb.
Are you prepared to point your finger at someone else, or out of respect, you think we'll just wait?
Yeah, I reckon we just wait on this one. It's we're bringing in a couple of players, 4 players, ultimately with these 2 picks, and our two pick players on the screen there, and we've just traded 4 out, so that pretty much keeps us pretty close on balance. And if you lose Steph Martin as well, then that allows us to bring in a pick in around mid-30s. So I reckon that would probably pretty close to see it done.
Mattie, explain to me the future first. I've missed that. Where'd that come from?
Yeah, so Brisbane have traded that to us with the Dunkley deal. So we'll get a pick somewhere between 1 and 18 next year. Hopefully Brisbane fall on their sword and finish wooden spooners. That'll give us pick 1. So let's cheer the demise of the Brisbane Lions next year. And wouldn't that be a turn up? I can't see it happening.
I can't. Well, there's things going on, as we know, behind the scenes. We know it's easy to forget, but there's some big things going on in their club with their coach. But and a future first is very valuable. Most likely, first round players generally end up probably playing 100 games for your footy club, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's hope the footy gods work in our favour and Brisbane slide down, so it gives us every opportunity. Now, speaking of footy gods, I've just seen someone tapping at the kennel, and they're in my virtual waiting room, and it's the man himself, Dougie Hawkins. So we're going to have to pause on this topic. No doubt we'll be talking about trades and the team leading into 2023 later on. But shall we welcome him in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've been waiting for. It's the great Dougie Hawkins joining us inside the kennel, and hello, Raylene, as well.
Hi, Matty. Is that Howard down the bottom?
Yeah. Have we got enough room for him, Matty? This is a very small dog kennel, Doug.
Well, I hope we've got enough room for me, Howard and Matty, and I can hear nice and clear.
Fantastic. Well, look, we're actually in the middle of a storm here, Bayside, so I'll do my best to hear you, Dougie, but we're absolutely over the moon, and we've got matching T-shirts on today, so that's a great start.
We have, Matty. We've got our Footscray shirts on, and obviously you guys know that I didn't play for the Western Bulldogs, but I actually play for Footscray. There it is.
Indeed, absolutely. And now, Doug, you're our very first guest on this podcast, and we're really thankful for the Past Players Association, and we were absolutely delighted when you've decided to join us. You've been to millions sports shows over the time, and you've probably been interviewed a million times. So there's not very many questions that you haven't been asked. So we're looking forward to trying to challenge you a little bit today.
No, Matty, looking forward to it, Howard, and looking forward to some of your very intelligent questions about the mighty Bulldogs and over my period, which now, can you believe that my first game now was 44 years ago? That was 1978. And I remember my first game very clearly. So there's a lot to talk about that we, have passed years gone by, and obviously now where we see the Western Bulldogs moving forward in 2023.
Oh, indeed, Dougie. And look, we know you're a Western Suburbs boy from Braybrook, but you've followed North Melbourne, which for some reason seems absolutely crazy to me. What happened there? Was this bad parenting?
Matty, it was an interesting one. My stepfather was a mad kangaroo, and after a few nights, well, not a few nights, but after his nights down at the Braybrook Hotel, he would come back, particularly on the Saturday night, and it'd be all I could hear and get was Kekovich, Howard. That's all I got was Kekovich, and obviously Kekovich being the kangaroo star back in those late 60s, early 70s, it rubbed off on me. And then obviously then when I started to watch North Melbourne, there was a couple of standouts. There's no doubt that my hero, I had two really, but this bloke was probably very special, and his name was Keith Gregg. He won 2 Brownlows back-to-back. So I think it was 73, 74, if I can remember now. And then, of course, there was the great Malcolm Blight. I mean, Malcolm Blight was just an absolute superstar and a freak of a player. But don't forget, North had Wayne Schimmelbusch, David Dench, Ross Glendenning come along the same day I played my first game. So I was a kangaroo in the good times.
Sure.
Not in those bad times, which they certainly had. Like Footscray, the Bulldogs, we had some really ordinary, stages of our footy. So, but the Kangaroos, they were good when I got involved with them.
Yeah, and of course you played with them against them in the first game, which would have been an absolute thrill. But I guess you coming to the kennel, as a 17-year-old, what was it like walking in for that first time? Because were there players like Charlie Sutton, and was EJ around, and Schultzy? Who was there to greet you, and what sort of things did they impart about the Bulldog way?
Yeah, Matty, and Howard, I met the great Charlie Sutton, and I'd met EJ when I was only 13, 14 at the Braybrook Football Club. That's where EJ started his football before he went to the Bulldogs. So I had a chance to meet the great Teddy Whitten there, and then obviously to meet those two greats of our football club when I first arrived was just, unbelievable. And then to walk into the rooms and sit next to the likes of the Gary Dempseys and, the Calvin Templetons, the Ian Dunstons, the Teddy Whitten Juniors, Alan Stoneham, who'd come from Sunshine, wore the famous number 3 straight away at the age of 16 or 17, I think he was. Jimmy Edmond, a young Jimmy Edmond as well. So to sort of walk into the Bulldogs kennel and to be met by these sort of type of players. And remember, boys, I'm a boy from Braybrook. I'm only 17. I've come straight out of the junior footy club at Braybrook with my great mate Robbie Grunewagen. And so here we are, me and Robbie Grunewagen, sitting there with all these, great players of the Footscray Football Club. And Once you got into the senior games, it was a bit of a learn. It was a bit of a, you had to learn and find your way. Let me tell you, it wasn't that easy. But once you got yourself into those senior games, you're pretty well accepted.
It's interesting, Doug. Like Ellen Stone, for example. I mean, I don't know, I might be a bit younger than you are, but in my time when I grew up as a young man, Alan Stoneham played for Essendon. It might have been my 20s. He was a superb player for Essendon, and I thought that's where he came from. But it's interesting to hear that he cut his teeth at the Bulldogs.
Yeah, he did, Howard. He went down there he actually played VFA footy with Sunshine. And I remember going to watch Alan play there at Sunshine when he would have been 15 or 16, I think, playing second division footy, I think it was. I don't think Sunshine was in senior division at that stage. And then he was invited down to the Footscray Footy Club. I reckon it's got to be about 75 or 6 or 74, something like that. And EJ had retired in 1970, and they'd put his jumper in mothballs number 3. And then all of a sudden they said, we're going to give it to a young talent that comes along. And being a local boy from Sunshine, which Alan Stoneham was, he got the famous number 3 straight away. So he was a Bulldog, Howard, from that 75, 76. And I reckon he might have left the Dogs at about 80, 81, if I can remember. And I was sad to see Alan leave because he's a very, very, very good player. And again, we got along very, very well.
Dougie, when you talk about those legends that you walk into the room with and sit there, do you think there's a difference these days with a young draftee walking in and sitting next to Bonds? Do you think back in those days that legendary was sort of built on, and that's what you had to aspire to, and there was sort of divisions in the club where there was legends and there was the green behind the ears, little young blokes coming in like yourself? Or do you think these days it's the transition and the support and the mentoring is a little better?
Yeah, Howard. Yeah, good question. I think when you go to a footy club like the Bulldogs, we didn't have a lot of team success in that period, and when you walk in and you meet the likes of Gary Dempsey, just say Gary Dempsey. I mean, 6-time best and fairest winner, won a Brownlow medal in 1975. And here I am, stand there with the great Gary Dempsey. It's hard to believe that. And I would think now these young boys who come into the Western Bulldogs, I'm not saying they're going to not look at the Bont the same way, but this bloke is building a reputation, Marcus Bontempelli, of being one of the all-time greats of the Bulldogs. Make no mistake about that. And even right now, he's probably, he could be in the top, maybe best 6 or 7 of all time of the Bulldogs. That's a big statement by me because we've had a lot of great individual players. But the way this boy is unfolded and the way he goes about his footy, Marcus Bontempelli, by the end of his football career, you know what? He might go past Scotty West and have 7 or 8 best and fairest. Who knows? He's been a little bit stiff too over the last few years. I think he's won 4.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So for the younger guys to meet, and I'll say Marcus Bontempelli because I'm talking about the best player in the club, and he is the best player in the club, like Gary Dempsey certainly was. And Calvin Templeton at that stage was just knocking the door down because in 78 he kicked 100-odd goals. We won 5 games. And he played mainly at centre-half forward. It was amazing effort. And then 79, he goes and kicks 97 goals in a team that won 7 games. And then 1980, he takes Charlie home, not Charles Sutton. We took Charles Sutton and the Charles Brownlow.
Yep.
So to play with, Dempsey and Templeton, for me, was a great highlight. When you got a power forward like that, and then I was spoiled by having Simon Beasley come along. You got 2 power forwards in Beasley and Templeton, and you wonder when I watch footy now, boys. I mean, I get frustrated when I see our on-ballers or midfielders, you want to call them, and you want to kick it sidewards and backwards and all that. Mate, when I had blokes like Templeton and Beasley, and obviously a bit later Chris Grant, the Rolls Royce and Grant, mate, they'd kill you if you didn't kick it to them. They would kill you. I know the game's changed, and I'm not saying young Jamara or the boy Darcy only played 3 or 4 games there, and now we've got that young bloke. Not say the young bloke. I think he's probably 30 years of age. Lob from Fremantle. So why when you kick it into him, why don't you get him into him? Get the ball in quick. But anyway, what was the question, Howard? I thought that I'm just raving on.
I think I've forgotten the question.
Yeah, I think it was about Dempsey meeting these great players, mate. It was, it was pretty special.
And add to that as well, you haven't mentioned Quinlan. He was probably there maybe just before you got there. So there was some incredible players over that sort of 70s and 80s period. And yet, Doug, you playing 350 games. You pretty much ticked off every single box with best and fairest, representing Victoria, or double All-Australian. The games record. You did the lot. Aside from that one little thing, is that something that leaves you unsatisfied to not be a premiership player?
Yeah, Mattie, Howard, it really, here I am. I'm 62 years of age now, and it's got that 18 years or 17 years at the Footscray Football Club went very, very quickly. And no, you're right. That still hurts me right now as I think about it. And I'm good mates at Dippers and Dermott's and Jason Dunstall and these blokes, and they kept saying, "Oh, I'll give you one of my medals. I've got 5. I've got 6 at home," and it just drives me bloody crazy. And we got close. I think the closest one for us was 85. We'd beaten Essendon during that year. We just had Mick Malthouse in his second season, and we started to recruit very, very well with guys from Western Australia and the Hardys, and Beasley was already there. And we had Andrew Purser, Jimmy Sewell, Tony Bahaja come across from Essendon. Bloke called Alan Daniels come from Claremont. Ian Williams come from Swan Districts. So we just recruited very, very well. And that was the one that I think in my playing time was 85. If we could beat Hawthorn out at Waverley in that prelim final, we were a chance to have a crack at Essendon. But in saying that, remember, Hawthorn beat us in the qualifying by 97 points. Right. MCG, big crowd, absolutely smashed us.
Yes.
And then the next week, we beat North. We beat North the next week, and then we had to play Hawthorn again. And Malthouse coached very, very well, and we played a real good game of footy in that prelim.
What a game that was. Look, I've ventured back and watched it. I'm sure you have as well, Doug, as painful as it was. And to only go down by 10 points in that game, there were just moments that maybe, if the footy gods were on our side, the ball bounces a different way. It may have been a different result because, I think we just had the cattle. It just didn't quite get across the line. And, as you know, we'd beaten them in round 20 at Western Oval by 5 points, and which was an incredible game. So we knew we could take them down. If you could go back in time to that moment, was there anything you'd do differently, or say to Mick Malthouse, or any changes you'd make that maybe could have changed the result of that, or were we just simply not quite there?
Yeah, Matty, I don't know what we could change. Mick made a couple of positional changes. I think Peter Foster, who was our centre half back, started centre half forward in that prelim. I think we needed to do a few things different to what we did 2 weeks ago against when we got smashed. We had to make a couple of changes, and that was just one of them. I think that he did. I think, look back now, that was a tough game. That prelim final. The more I look at it, the more I think about it. The side who won were taking on a fresh Essendon. Essendon were a fantastic side. They were well placed. They were rested up, and our game was a real battle. Yeah, right. It was physical. It was warm. It was last man standing stuff. And I knew after the game, I sat in the rooms there at Waverley, and boys, I'll be honest, I was knackered. I was spent. Matter of fact, I'll be honest, the last 2 or 3 minutes of that game, I was struggling. Right. I'd given everything. I didn't have much left, and I think I went forward in that last few minutes. Right. And there was one stage there where I went to get the ball, and I let Robbie Groenewegen come through because he was coming through, and I stopped. I could have grabbed the ball and span, kicked a goal over my shoulder or left or right, and I actually pulled up more or less. I was actually knackered. So in saying that, Matty, I think we gave everything. It was a huge turnaround from 2 weeks earlier. You're right. We beat Hawthorn. I think it was round 20, whatever it was. It was in the mud. It was a real muddy day at the old, old Western Witten Oval. It was a muddy day. I remember it clearly. Yeah. I'd have Dipper every time I played Hawthorn. He was always very unpredictable. You didn't know what he was going to do. He didn't know himself. How would I work it out? I'm trying to work him out. And I'm thinking, what's he going to do next? He was very, very dangerous, very unpredictable, old Dipper.
We've just lost our co-host there, but hopefully he jumps back.
We lost Howard there. Yeah, Matty.
That's just the mention of Dipper. He scares most people, and that's obviously worked a charm there. But look, just talking about that day in the mud at Whitten Oval, you know, I'm not sure how clearly you remember it, but there were only 10 goals scored for that entire game, and only one, in fact, to the Geelong Road end. Do you know? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. I remember it clearly, and the ball was in our half-forward line, and it came from a boundary throw-in. I remember it clearly. Terry Wallace got it. He scrubbed his kick. I actually marked it in front of Dipper. Dipper was about a metre behind me. I gave the handball over the top to Phil Malin. Phil Malin gave the 1-2. I made sure the handball was high, so he had to give it back to me. So he was under pressure, and I got it, and I was about 75 metres out, and I was about 40 metres out, and kicked that goal down that only one down that end at the Geelong Road end, because that was always normally you score down that end, not down at the Gordon Street end. And I got a feeling Steve McPherson kicked a big torp late in the game there, and kicked the goal. Geelong Road, yeah.
Yep.
You're right, Matty. It was a real low-scoring game, and that was a pretty tough physical game as well. And I got a feeling the last game of the year we played St Kilda at Moorabbin, and they beat us.
Yeah, they wouldn't spoon us that year. So, you know, to go down against the cellar dwellers in the last round, you know, people were starting to ask a few questions, and I guess, and then, you know, getting absolutely blown away, obliterated, like you said, in the first final there, we had to bounce back. We turned it around, obviously, and it was a big occasion at the MCG to win that the semi-final with Simon, you know, kicking his 100th. What do you remember about that your first ever finals win?
Yeah, no, it was a game that obviously we had to win. It was just written to turn things around. Simon was fantastic, kicked 100. I got a feeling Choco Rule might have kicked 4 or 5. He kicked 5. He was brilliant. I had a game on the wing that day where there's games where you just can't do much wrong, Matty. And this day, welcome back, Howard. Got your back, mate. And
all right, boys.
Yeah, and this game, Howard, we're talking about the semi-final against North Melbourne, the MCG. Matty, Howard, this is the day where this was my best game of footy that I ever played with the Footscray Footy Club, individually and as a team, as a group. I'll never get it. I just couldn't do anything wrong. I missed a couple of goals I probably should have kicked, which would have topped off a real terrific game individually. That was just a day where you just weren't making mistakes. I just wasn't making mistakes. It just followed me, and I've done everything correctly. And
well, you were in.
It was amazing.
I think all 3 of your finals, you're pretty much close to accredited for best for our team, and you know, probably got you across the line. I imagine even in a year that Brad Hardy won the Brownlow medal, you know, you took home the Charles Sutton medal that year, and I guess, you know, probably neck and neck heading into the finals, and you just blew them away in that series. So, you know, and they say that's what makes a player, isn't it? Rising in those moments. I know you're a modest man, but you know what an incredible experience that must have been.
Yeah, it was, Matty, Howard. It really was. And you know, I look back, and 1984, I got beaten by Andrew Purser by one vote in the best and fairest, which really, you know, it's not about best and fairest, it's about grand finals. But it's a bonus if you can win a B and F. They're hard things to win at footy clubs, and whatever footy club it may be. And then 85 at the end of the home and away, Stevie Wallace was in front. I was 5th.
Whoa!
I was 5th at the end of the home and away, and then in the 3 finals, I think it was 5 people giving votes, and it was a 5-4-3 system.
Yep.
I got 25 votes to 3 games, so I ended up getting 70. That got me over the line, 75 votes. So.
There you are.
So to win that best and fairest, you know, it could have been back to back, which sounds good. You know what? Who cares about second? No one remembers anyone run second. And just on that, you know, I think 92 under Terry Wheeler, we just bloody couldn't beat Geelong. We couldn't beat Geelong, but I reckon West Coast, we matched up pretty good. And I reckon we were a sneaky shot if we could get over the Cats, but bloody Cats. We just, we got St Kilda in the semi-final out at Waverley. Keenan Reynolds did a great job on Stewie Lowe, and Tony Campbell was pretty good on Tony Lockett. Nicky Winmar broke his collarbone halfway through the third quarter, which certainly helped us. And we just couldn't get over Geelong.
No, absolutely. And I think, that was the era where Gary Ablett was there and Billy Brownless coming through, and they had just that unstoppable midfield. And, I guess probably, in your time and in EJ's time, they were virtually impossible to beat, and even still today at Geelong, at Cardinia Park. So we need to eradicate those demons, I think, and change history from here on.
Now, it's amazing, Matty Howard. It's really amazing, Matty Howard, that Matty, you just mentioned about Cardinia Park, which we call Cardinia Park. You're right. EJ played 20 years. I played 18. 38 years. We won there once.
Wow.
And that was in 85, boys. That's an amazing stat, isn't it? 38 years between Dougie and EJ. And we won once, and that was 85. We played finals. Only once.
Doug, do you put that down to a team just knowing every square centimetre of the ground? What is it, a psychological thing? What is it, mate?
Howard, it's a tricky one. We stayed overnight there one time, went up on the Friday. We travelled by train. We went by bus. We tried every different tactic that we could imagine or think of. And we just, they just seemed to be hard to, just unbeatable there. Every bloke walked around. Once they got a goal or two early, the crowd got going, and then all of a sudden they got going. All the 5'6" or 8ers or 10, with a 5'10", they grew into 6'4", 5. Yeah, so it was just a bloody hard ground to play footy on. And it's like Victoria Park.
Yeah.
17 years, Victoria Park won once. That was 85.
I heard a really interesting stat. In 85, we obviously won at Cardinia Park. We won at Victoria Park. We also won at Princess Park in round one of that year. That
Correct.
was the only time that we'd won at all three of those venues prior to that until from 1945. So that was a 40-year winning one season at that ground, at those three grounds. So, we had some magic that year, 85. But, I don't want to, keep rehashing the heartache. It was it just wasn't to be in the end. So, Doug, I was just thinking about this the other day, and we had a good chat, didn't we, Paul, about the 85 team and the 92 one you've mentioned. That was obviously an incredibly strong side as well. How do you think the 1985 team would have gone in a fantasy footy match if they were to play against the 2016 Premiership team? Which team would win that?
I think I personally felt we probably had a lot more talent, individual talent in that 85 side. I think that. Obviously now they're so fit and they run quicker than we did. Here I go. I think we'd get away with them. I just think the 85 side may get away with them. We'd make it very physical. Let me tell you, it'd be a physical game.
So, Doug, what you're saying,
these boys don't want it. Sorry, go on, Howard.
What you're saying, Doug, is man on man, you felt like you're a better team. That 2016 Premiership team was sort of renowned for its surge football, wasn't it? Its hardness at the ball.
Howard, 100%. What those boys did in 2016, it was a miracle. To go there at Perth, come back, beat Hawthorn, go and beat GWS in a prelim final, and then reload and take on Sydney, who's flying. Right? It doesn't happen. And I think they come from 7th. That 2016 side was magnificent. It was just something that I was proud of them, and another part of me, I was bloody jealous of them.
Yeah.
Because some of these guys have played 20, 30 games and they're Premiership players. And I've been to the Well and we didn't get what we wanted to get, and I'm sitting there with Raylene at the grand final. I'm cheering. I've got the tears in my eyes, crying, and I'm wrapped for the playing group and the supporters and everybody like that. And then I started to think, how lucky these blokes. Not lucky. You make your own luck in life, and they made their own luck. They were magnificent, the 2016 team, and they were, weren't they?
Oh,
Weren't they fantastic? It's hard to match up. 85 to 216. Will we beat them? I think we probably could.
Yeah.
But anyway, and there people be probably watching us saying, you know what, 216 would beat 85 sides. So it's a tricky one, isn't it?
They're just two of my absolute, like I fell in love with the club in 85, as a 9-year-old watching the likes of you and, a lot of the players, Choco Royal and Super McPherson and Simon and Wally and all these players, Ricky Kennedy, they were just, magic. I'd be pretending to be you guys in the backyard. So I fell in love and, just like, the 9-year-olds of 2016 did with that group. So they're just, iconic eras and teams that will live in the memory forever. So, you didn't get the chocolates, Doug, but you know what? You won a lot of hearts and we're still talking about it, 40 years later.
Yeah, you're right, Matty. So, to not get that grand final is what footy's all about. And, and again, for me to break Ted's record was just something special. That's something that I rate probably at the top of my AFL career. To break the record of the great Teddy Whitten is just something very special. And he's like a second dad to me, and I loved him. He was a fantastic bloke. And tragedy with prostate cancer, he said he was okay. If he got treated early, he'd probably still be here. He was only 63, Ted, when he passed away. 1 year, now I'm 62, 1 year, and I'm 63, and we lost one of the greats, one of the all-time greats. Not only footy players, but great entertainer. Wasn't he great? He was just, when that red light went on the camera, EJ went on Howard and Mattie, there's so many times I would just laugh my head off just some of the stuff that he would say. He was a great entertainer. He was a fantastic. And to break his record was special.
He single-handedly drove that state of origin or state of, the Victorian, South Australian, Western Australia games, didn't he? He was amazing.
He did, Howard, no doubt about that. And the play for Victoria was very, very special. As a young boy growing up, I always wanted to play one game of VFL footy. I must admit, I didn't care where it was. I just wanted to play a game of VFL footy. And then to chuck on the big V and have Teddy promoting it. And then you got the likes of the great late Neil Curley in Adelaide. Was like Teddy. They had that charisma and aura about them. When you met them, you never forget their handshake and the way they just talked to you. And Mal Brown was in the same boat from Western Australia. Brownie, EJ, Curley kept it all alive. They were fantastic. Brownie was in the same boat as them two blokes, legends.
And a lot of players would see you in the same light as well, Doug. It's carrying that that baton and passing it on, and it's not only the spirit, the Bulldog spirit, but it's some of the history that you pass on and that wisdom, and it carries on. You might not have been on the field in that 2016, but goodness knows that your influence was blowing those players in the right direction.
Yeah, you're right, Matty. You're right, Howard. And just very quickly, going back to that state footy stuff, my first one was 82, and I'll never forget it. Halfway through the last quarter, I'm on the bench. I'm sitting in between Bruce Dool and Lee Matthews. And I've looked across, I'm only 20, 21. I looked across and I went, how good's this? I've arrived. Sitting next to two of the greats. And then I witnessed a bloke called Stephen Kernan kick 10. Unbeatable. You couldn't beat him. Couldn't touch him in 84. Kicked 10. We won. We won the game. He kicked 10, then went to Carlton. Sticks Kernahan wasn't a great individual.
He was one of the great sort of, I know there was players from South Australia that came over before him, obviously, but when he came over, the awe and the anticipation of him coming, it was almost ordained that he was just going to absolutely dominate the game in Victoria, wasn't he?
It was, Howard, no doubt about it. And then a bloke like Craig Bradley come across to Carlton as well. And don't worry about Whitty miss out either at the Bulldogs. We got a bloke called Tony McGuinness, who was a very, very good player. Excuse me, boys. It was a very, very good player, Tony McGuinness. And you'd love to see him playing the red, white and blue in 85.
Oh.
On board with Choco and these blokes and Phil Malin and Stevie Wallace. I'll tell you what. We would have been in the grand final.
Oh.
And the other bloke we've all forgot about, and I have never forgotten about him, was Teddy Whitten Jr. I mean, Teddy Whitten Jr., both sides of the body, was as good as anyone that I played with. He played 150 games. His knee reconstruction didn't work out. And he was retired at 24, 25, Teddy.
Wow.
And if he played, which he was still on the team list. If he plays in 85, he kicks 3 or 4 and gives away 3 or 4.
And Doug, I can imagine the pressure that he might have been under. Obviously, his parent would be able to play to get to AFL and play so well, but you don't often see great players, sons necessarily coming through and being great players as well. I mean, Gary Ablett Jr. being an exception, but it's to come through that pressure and that I guess the fact that you're the son of a great is probably a bit of a curse rather than an advantage.
Howard, he could have easily played 300. He got that 150. And one of his great things about being the son of the great Teddy Whitten Sr., one day he went to the boundary on my wing up against the fence, and this bloke yelled out, "You're not as good as your old man, Whitten." And you know what Teddy Jr. said? "You tell me who was." And the crowd given to him. Teddy said, "Hawk," the crowd given to him. "Yeah, tell him who was, but you're not as good as your old man, Whitten." "Yeah, but you tell me who was." And then they give it to this bloke. "Sit down and shut up, mate, you goose." And what a great comeback. Tell me who was. Well, no one was. So you're right, Howard. You know, the likes of Whitten and, you talk about both-sided players. You don't see many these days. There's not many blokes now can kick both feet. And, I played with the Leon Camerons, fantastic both-sided. Jason Ackermanis, I didn't play with him, but gee whiz, a bloke of his side kicking the ball both feet. You don't see him now, do you? There's not many blokes now can kick both feet as good as the blokes I'm talking about.
Doug, you talk about legend. I'm really interested to know, you eventually became one, and I don't know whether you're mowing the lawn one day and all of a sudden it occurs to you that you're a legend. I'm not sure how that works, but you probably would have been sitting there and the young bloke, the young Dougie Hawkins, walks in and sits next to you. And how may have you handled things differently from when you were a young bloke? How did you recognise you had that level of influence, and did you change your approach to maybe how you were treated when you arrived at the club?
Yeah, good, Howard. Yeah, good question. I had come from a very successful footy club in Braybrook, and they built this belief in you that you believe in yourself. Don't listen to any bullshit. Don't think you can't do it. Don't think you're good enough. You are good enough. Don't think you're not good enough. You are good enough. And I come from a winning environment, and the Braybrook Footy Club was about, hey, we went there to run second. I'm not talking under 12s. I'm talking under 13s, right through to under 17s in my last year at the Braybrook Footy Club. So I played there for 8 years with Robbie Groenewegen. We played in 7 grand finals, won 6 flags. So we're winners. We're going to the Bulldogs as winners, and then it was hard to accept the fact that our first year we got smashed. There was games we got smashed. I'd go in the rooms and I'd be crying, and I say this the right way. Some of the other blokes, senior blokes, to me didn't look like it was hurting enough. Surely it would have hurt them, but they weren't sitting there crying like me. I was, and Groenewegen was crying because we were winners. We wanted to be winners. We weren't there to run second. We weren't prepared to cop it. So when young blokes come in, Howard, to the footy club, I made them feel welcome. I put my arm around them, shook their hands and said, "Mate, welcome to the Footscray Footy Club, son," because I was, had to work my way through. But once you got into that senior group, as I said, you're accepted very much, because it's a little bit cliquey at times in those days, early days.
Absolutely. And just thinking about then versus I know that we've prepared a few questions for you just to do a little bit of a comparison of if you think things might be better or worse as they were in your playing days versus now. And we'd love you to sort of just shoot from the hip and tell us what you think.
Gee, I'll tell you what, Mattie, I'd love to be playing now. Imagine running around Marvel Stadium with a roof over your head. No wind, no rain.
Hold back, Dougie, because these are the questions. Are you ready?
Oh,
this is what you're going to say. So we've spent hours, Mattie and I, thinking about
all right, what are
we going to throw at Dougie that's going to make him interested after he's done 1 million interviews in his day. So here we go. It's better or worse. That's the only option. Better or worse. So I'm going to make a statement, and then you qualify that very quickly because they're going to move on very quickly.
All
okay.
Right, worse.
Here we go. Fitness, better or worse?
Worse.
Why?
Because it's not the way that I love playing footy And I love one-on-one. Simple as that. And I love kicking where the goals are, not where they're not.
Umpiring.
Frustrating. Frustrating. Am I saying better when I was? Better when I was, because you can tell an umpire to go and get, and he'd tell me to go get a kick. So, better umpiring in my day than now.
Socialising back then and back now and now.
Jesus Christ. We could have a drink, Howard. We could have a drink, Mattie. Better back in my day because you're able to have a bit of release and a bit of fun. These kids don't have nothing these days.
Supporters.
Loved them. Better. They're the same. They're the same people. They love their footy club. Footscray Western Boyle supporters are fantastic people. They're all the same.
Media.
The media be with you in the pub having a drink, and they'd ask you the next day, what can I write and what happened, and am I able to do that? So the media back then was with us.
Wow.
And they would let us know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Not now.
Take us back there, please.
Too many big want to be heroes now. But anyway, yep.
Draft compared to zone. I mean, you talk about Braybrook then. So draft or zone?
I think the zone was good. We got Gippsland and we had Traralgon and Sale and all that stuff, and obviously we had the Western Suburbs. So for me, I thought the zone was pretty good.
Brownlow.
A few ordinary players have won it. It's a award that's given by the umpires, who sometimes I don't think are the greatest judges. But Brownlow Medal is a very prestigious. It's a fantastic award, and I played with 5-6 Brownlow medalists. You know, from Dempsey, who won in '75, Templeton, Brad Hardy, the great Libber, Scotty Wine. Chris Grant polled the most votes, should have won in '97, I think it was. Scotty West gets beaten by Woden by a vote or 2 votes, which he should have won it. It could have been 7 or 8 I played with.
All right, Dougie, grounds, footy grounds, just the grounds. I'm not talking about stadiums, grounds, conditions.
Now, better playing now.
Footy boots.
Oh, I think they wear slippers now. They wear these bloody slippers now. I used to wear footy boots with stops and all that, and they're better now. They're better now than what we had, I suppose.
Diet.
Oh shit. They're better. They're better. Their diets are better now than in my day.
Medical. Does medical room, medical trainers?
Yeah, I think now they're very much aware of the concussion stuff and all that. In our day, you got a whack in the head, you stayed on the ground. You wouldn't come off. You'd tell the trainer to get lost because that was a sign of weakness. So medical-wise now, they're better prepared now than when we were because we continued to play when we probably shouldn't have. But that was how it was.
Mental health.
Howard, it's a tough one. I think now there's a lot more pressure on players now because they can't have a relaxing time like we could. And as we all know, when you get paid big dollars comes pressure. And if you're not playing good footy, there's that many media people now who can write articles about you, and everyone knows that what sort of money you're on, and that brings mental health. And if you're not playing good footy and you're on good dollars, it's a bloody pressure job, let me tell you.
Doug, we're going to move into our final segment. And this is, we're having a competition with all the past players. So we're going to ask a series of questions. There's 60 seconds on the clock.
Yep.
And you get to choose the topic. So it's either Bulldog goal kickers or season 1985. I've put together a quiz of 20 questions. You can choose either of those and they're all yours.
I'll go Bulldog goal kickers.
That actually surprised me, but fantastic. Bulldog goal kickers it is. Actually, I'm not going to show you the screen there. Let me stop sharing that because that's got all the answers. Bulldog goal kickers. All right, Doug. 60 seconds is going to be on the clock very, very shortly. Just let me find that.
Good luck, Doug.
Brilliant. And Doug, the questions get a little bit harder as we go on. So the points are worth more the deeper you get in. Okay, so you might get all 20. Good luck, Doug. Your time starts now. True or false? Brad Johnson has kicked the most goals for our club.
False.
Correct, as Simon Beasley. Simon Beasley holds the record for the most goals in a match for the Dogs. True or false?
False.
Well done, Templeton. Alan Hopkins topped our goal kicking in our first ever season in 25. True or false?
Say that again.
Alan Hopkins, number one goal kicker in 1925. True or false?
False.
It was true with 40.
Who was
scored
that?
the most goals in a single game for the Dogs in a
Say
final?
that again, Matty.
Who's kicked the most goals in a final for the Dogs?
In the final,
Yeah, in a final.
Jack Collins.
That was grand final. I'll give you another opportunity. Any final.
Danny Delray.
Yeah, you got it. You were playing. Who was the most recent Bulldog to kick 10 in a game?
Josh Bruce.
Yeah, well done. What was the total goals scored by Brian Royal in his 199 games?
The most goals.
How many goals did he kick in total?
299.
You got it.
Did I get that right?
That's an impressive answer.
299. He played 199 and 299 goals.
There he is.
Great
That was
Choco.
another
What a
point.
great player, eh?
Well done. How do you know that? You're an encyclopedia.
Well, he's a great player, Choco, and he was he won the best and fairest at Charles Sutton Mental his first year. Coming to us with Rico, total new reconstruction at 18 in 83. Great player, Royal. Oh.
Yeah.
Royal, he's a fantastic player, Choco.
Yeah.
Wouldn't handball, but he's a fantastic player. Why handball, he should say to me, why handball when they can't kick him when I can? Very cool.
Love it, Doug. Well, Dougie, that's all we've got time for in the kennel today.
Good on you, Matty.
We're
Howard.
absolutely over the moon to have you, and you're welcome anytime. In fact, we'll probably be badgering you pretty much all the time because you're just wonderful, and I know that you're just the number one son. You're pretty much the emblem of the club in a lot of people's minds. So you're going to bring a lot of joy for people watching this. So thank you on behalf of everyone.
And look, Doug, my takeaways very quickly, Dougie. My takeaways are these, mate, that Braybrook Footy Club, I feel like I want to go down there, and it's great that you pay homage to them. My other takeaway is maybe we should have stuck with zones because that's where you get your players who belong to the Bulldogs Footy Club. But I know when they recruit, they're very specific about the type of kid they want to come to their club. And my third one, and I agree with Matty, your encyclopedic knowledge is phenomenal, mate. Phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks, Howard. Thanks, Matty. We only scratch the surface, and there's so much we can really talk about and cover. But anyway, boys, I really appreciate it, the chat. We had a lot of fun and I enjoyed it, and let's do it again.
Absolutely, Doug.
Go on you, Matty.
Go
on you, Howard.
Thanks, Dougie.
Go on you, boys. Go the Dogs.
Thanks,
Dogs.
mate.
So, Paul, we just had an awesome chat with Doug, and I've just got a couple of his highlights on the screen here. Just the way he moved was magnificent, and he talked about some players who were amazing on both sides of their body, like a Leo and Cameron. But he was the master of it, and this was before time that I guess they the statistics kept a record of their kicking efficiency or disposal efficiency in general. But he never missed a target, this man. Obviously everyone looks good in their highlights, but some of the things you can see on your screen here was just a magician. I'm actually in this picture, by the way, tapping him on the back there. It was magnificent, and just have a look at this.
Matt, what I noticed just then, there was some wet weather before, and he's picked up the ball with one hand in what appeared to be a puddle, which is ironic considering we're in floods now, with one hand, and then just kicks it like it's dry weather. And the other thing, Matty, is the play on effect, isn't he? It's like he's ahead of his time. He's just playing it on. Every time he gets the ball, I'm off.
Absolutely, he did. He controlled the play. Players had to come to him, but he was just a ball magnet, and he just knew how to hit a target or a goal. Look at this. There's a 60-meter barrel.
That looks like Waverley.
Yeah, absolutely. And goal after goal after goal. Magnificent use of the body. This was the semi-final he was talking about against North Melbourne. This was him being reported in 1987 against the Cats. But he could do it all. And the great thing about him as well is he was just a showman. He whether he'd take a mark, he'd salute the crowd. This was a great day, and he just brought the crowd with him. There he is, the Dougie dance.
It reminds me of when we were talking to Jeff Vandermeer, Matt, about Jeff. The very thing that he instilled Latham, and the thing that he prided most was how clean he was. And you see that in Doug there, don't you? He's very clean with the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's the hallmarks of, a great player. He controlled the ball and he treated it like his own personal yo-yo. Have a look at this. Just flicking it off his own wrists and then just go bow. No wonder he was loved. But it's not just his football talent. He's just he just connects with people. He remembers people. He
That's a handball I think I saw there.
Yeah. Well, he could, he could handball. That's for sure. He was talking about Brian Royal not handballing. He could hit any target. From behind.
And Mattie, what I love about it as well is he could have easily played today. He could have easily just put him on the wing in today's game, couldn't you? He's got every skill there, that running on, playing on. The thing I've noticed a lot about there was bouncing the ball, which doesn't so much happen these days because there's no space provided with the way that football's played these days, which is a bit of a shame. But he could easily transition into 2022 footy.
That's my job for the week. I'm going to contact Sam Power and say, use that pick 21. We've got a man who's still got it. All right. So that's what we're doing, Bulldogs supporters. And that's a sort of the quality we have at Inside the Kennel. But
and he was endorsing, the modern day training. So he'll throw himself into the ice bath and all that sort of thing. I'm sure that there'll probably be half a dozen stubbies down the bottom there somewhere, though.
Absolutely, we'll entice him one way or another. But thank you so much for everybody for tuning in, and Paul for a fantastic first episode. I hope everyone enjoyed it, and if you do enjoy it, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at this. That hopefully you're watching this podcast on. We're going to be bringing you a lot more of this, and we've got players lining up. Thanks to Paul O'Connor and the Past Players Association, we're going to be bringing you more of this, more of the same. Hopefully, Dougie's back. He seems pretty keen, and hopefully we continue to hear some fantastic stories from the inside.
And we promise we won't tell the next guest Dougie was the former guest. I don't think they want that under that sort of pressure, but can't wait for the next episode, Mattie.
Magnificent. All the best and go Dogs.
Go Doggies. Woof, woof.
Red in my heart, white in my veins, blue in my eye, red, white, and blue in my brain. I'm Bulldog.